during your day.
And number one whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hi. Good to meet you. It is the Monty Show. Okay, so we just had a kind of a funny moment. I usually will slurp whatever energy drink into the microphone to be obnoxious while we're waiting for the show to start. And it went down the wrong windpipe and stuff, and I wound up spitting and coughing everywhere. So my eyes are watering as the show starts. Good to be with you. It is Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. Four-day weekend is over. Deal with it. How the heck are you, Jake? Obviously, it's average to see you.
Yep.
Big show for you. We have got Pac-12 football today. Major update on the paver patio. Jake screwed me on tires. Awesome trip to Yellowstone. That is all coming up. But why don't we start with Big 12 expansion? Because after a restful weekend hanging out with lots of bison,
Yeah, bison.
we saw all these kind of amazing animals over the weekend. I was for sure that Colorado, the buffaloes, see the bisons in
The buffaloes,
the bison,
bison,
the
right,
Yellowstone tie-in.
yeah, right. Okay, got it. Yeah.
There is no Colorado tie-in. But the point is, BYU and the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is going to expand, and by most accounts...
the Big 12.
The Big 12. Yeah, the Pac-12 is not expanding. They're terrible. That's like business stuff. Anyway, the Big 12 is going to expand, and by most accounts... BYU is going to get an invite for that expansion and will be a member of the Big 12 by the end of this week. And as we've talked about on this show ad nauseum, it is really important that BYU not just lurch at that first P5 opportunity that they get. Because by all accounts, BYU is the most in-demand brand when it comes to conference expansion. If you believe the names that are out there, the Central Floridas, Cincinnati, Houston, and BYU as those four. Jake, does that satisfy your criteria for BYU to join the Big 12?
I mean, of course, there's always options that would make it a more attractive solution for BYU, but I think, when you look at where it could potentially take BYU in terms of the college football playoff and thus, bringing more revenue into the program, I think for what they want now, I think that would get it done. I mean, again, I think we have to understand that, BYU is always going to be able to say, well, we want to wait for something better. Well, we want to wait for, this, or we want to wait for that. Or on the other side of it, if you're BYU, you're like, all right, this is one of the first best opportunities that we've received. And we don't know what that next opportunity is going to look like. So it really, to me, is a philosophical question that BYU just simply has to make a choice on. For me, I think it is good enough. I think, is it Texas and Oklahoma with BYU? No, it's not. But is it an opportunity for BYU to, sort of like launch themselves into college football playoff opportunities and again, bringing more revenue to the program? Yes, I think it is. And so to me, I think it is good enough. I think that they would take advantage of this opportunity.
Well, and I think more to the point, I think this is the right opportunity for BYU. And we've talked, I feel like for weeks now, about what the criteria needs to be for BYU to, without question, accept a bid to the Big 12. And I think Houston was always part of that equation. And the news, last week that Houston was out, I think really was concerning to BYU fans because you need a new frontier, if you will. You need the Houston market to make it a viable conference. And I think the Big 12 knows that. We've talked about that for the last month, that without Houston, Big 12 expansion does not make a whole lot of sense. And I think now that you know it, allegedly, Houston is joining the Big 12 with BYU. I think that this makes all the sense in the world because now BYU is going to get a greater footprint and more reach into the state of Texas. And we saw what happened when they played in Austin, knocked off Texas. You saw what that did for recruiting. You saw the bump in talent that BYU got out of the Taysomator jumping over Longhorns. Like,
Yeah.
that was a viral, visceral moment. You could feel the momentum there. This is that same thing. You need that reach into deep into Texas. I think Florida, it's always good to have reach into Florida because of the athletes. I think Central Florida is a throw-in. I think Cincinnati is overall a nice add. They don't, in my opinion, those two schools don't bring a whole lot of value to the Big 12. That's just my opinion. I know Cincinnati fans are, freaking out about things we've said on this show. It seems like forever ago now that we said Cincinnati's just not a sexy brand. They don't bring you a whole lot of money. They don't bring you a whole lot of TV audience. You're not getting a million and a half people every time Cincinnati's on ESPN. You're not getting 57,000 by some, accounts. Did you see Allegiant Stadium for BYU in Arizona?
Wait. I thought wasn't it said Thursday that BYU fans don't travel?
It was. It was said that BYU fans don't travel and that's overhyped and that's overrated. Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas on Saturday night was absolutely blue. It was impressive. It was everything that you wanted. I don't think you're getting that from Central Florida. I don't think you're getting that from Cincinnati. I don't think you're getting that from Houston.
No.
That's why I say, and I've said before, and I know Ute fan and every other fan in the world freaked out when I said it, BYU is the crown jewel of Big 12 expansion. You can like that, you can hate that, but it is not almost in question. I believe it's a fact. Without BYU, it makes no sense for the Big 12 to expand because you don't have leverage. You're not making more money. You're not growing your audience. You're not growing your fan base.
Yep.
Without BYU, you're not growing your presence on ESPN. You're not getting the reach that you need to get to make Big 12 expansion worth it. And if you haven't heard the details, it looks like in 2 years, the Big 12 will have 14 teams. And then once Oklahoma and Texas leave, you'll be back to 12. And it makes all the sense in the world. And the 4 teams are, again, BYU, Cincinnati, Central Florida, and Houston, that allegedly will be announced by the end of the week, according to Sports Illustrated. These are incredible times to be a college football fan. I think this is the right move at the right time for BYU. And again, this is why I say momentum is a real thing. It is an important beast. And when you look at the momentum that BYU has, Zach Wilson going number 2 to the Jets. You look at the season that BYU was able to put together. You look at all the scheduling and all the big wins, the Hail Mary at Nebraska. The moments, the plays, the wins, Taysom jumping over Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these huge moments that were not supposed to happen. You look at the 9 straight losses to Utah, Little Brother, TDS, all of this stuff has now been worth it. It has led you up to this moment in time where you now become arguably more relevant than your big brother to the north. And this is a plight that Utah is going to have to deal with head on because the Pac-12 is irrelevant. And I think that when you look at UCLA's win over LSU, it was absolutely critical. Because if UCLA gets rolled by LSU at the Rose Bowl, I think it's lights out for the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Respect would have been lost. I just didn't see a path forward at that point. And somehow, some way, Chip Kelly, of all people in the Pac-12, pulled out what could be the biggest win of the year for that conference. Because people will remember that win in late October and early November when you're trying to make a decision. Because UCLA is going to falter at some point. But if they're a one-loss team with a win over LSU, boy, that's awfully nice for the Pac-12, right?
It has a nice sound to it.
Well, and they need that because I think with the Big 12 expanding, and I know that this is an unpopular opinion, but with the Pac-12 missing out on an opportunity to expand, and that absolutely includes BYU, missing out on that opportunity, missing out on that brand, not having... like we tried like hell the other day to figure out how to watch the Utah game online or on TV because we're DirecTV subscribers. So we don't have Pac-12 network. Fubo TV, not accessible. Sling TV, not accessible. There's no way to watch a lot of Pac-12 football games. And that's a big, big story. Because I'm telling you, west of the Wasatch Front, I don't know that, or east of the Wasatch Front, I don't know that there's many people who care to watch Pac-12 football. And west of the Wasatch Front, I think there's a lot of people who don't have access to Pac-12 football.
But that's all they would watch if they did.
Yeah. And the other thing is, that's why you needed BYU in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Because what does that do?
ESPN.
That puts a game a week on ESPN. And it puts a game a week in the ESPN app.
The ESPN deal, it's not like it's worth $100 million a year, but my goodness, it might as well be with how much leverage it has. I mean, we've literally been sitting here for 15 minutes now talking about how ESPN and that exposure and all the value BYU brings. Like, I just think that the Pac-12 is it's such a mediocre conference. I love the nameplates. I love the brands in the conference. It is my favorite conference from that perspective, the brands and the different names that you get, but I just wish it was run better. I mean, there's no excuse to not, like, we should be able to, at least on YouTube, be able to pull something up, like at a minimum, but you can't even do that. And to me, I was just like, dude, like, I was so ready. You know how last week on Twitter, like, everyone was like, this is the week. Utah's finally playing again. We're doing a lot of big things at the game. Like, it's sold out. Like, there was so much hype around it, only to find out, yeah, you can't watch it. That's right. And it just is incredibly disappointing. And I don't know, if you're the Pac-12, I just don't know what you're doing or what good you think comes from not having a streaming deal. I don't quite understand that.
Well, and again, I think the Big 12 is just, with this expansion, by adding these four, you're never going to recover from Texas and Oklahoma leaving.
No.
You're never going to.
There's only so many of those brands.
And let's be honest, you're never going to be the SEC because nobody is. But with those four brands, you can now compete recruiting against the ACC, recruiting against, the Pac-12, frankly. You're not going to out-recruit the Big Ten just because of their TV deal and because of their access to big nameplate bowls, right? You know that if you win in the Big Ten, if you're Ohio State, let's say that if you're in the Big 12 and you are competing, if you're Oklahoma State, are you ever going to be able to out-recruit Ohio State in Pennsylvania?
No.
You're not. That's never going to happen. So that means you have to go fishing in a pond where you can catch big fish. And that means Texas, Florida, the Southeast. Now, are you ever going to get 5-star recruits to go to forget Alabama, to come to Oklahoma State, to come to Houston or Central Florida? You're not. But now isn't Central Florida more able to compete in the state of Florida with Florida State, with Miami? Because Miami's pulling recruits right now.
Yeah.
But isn't Central Florida now like, hey, man, we're in the Big 12. We have access to the college football playoff. Yeah, they are. They're able to recruit at a higher level there. And if you are Houston, aren't you able to compete, with Texas Tech? Aren't you able to compete, up into Oklahoma? Because there are kids who want to stay home. You know what? Isn't it, aren't you able to stay home in Houston, play in the Big 12? Like, there's reasons for Houstonians to be excited about the Big 12. And I'm telling you now, if you're a Pac-12 fan, if you're a fan of USC, UCLA, Oregon, what a terrible loss by Washington. My God, if Sam Heward's not the starting quarterback in week 2, I don't know what you do. I mean, that was an embarrassing performance for Jimmy Lake and the Huskies. Like, I don't even know what you say about that. But if you are Arizona State, how relevant is Arizona State? Let's say Arizona State's the real deal and they're able to leave all this nonsense with the recruiting violations and suspended coaches. And let's say they're able to leave all of that behind. They lose one game. How relevant is Arizona State?
Not more relevant than other teams in the country. That's for sure.
And that's my point. Like,
it doesn't. I mean, if you're going to come out of the Pac-12, you got to be undefeated. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. Like the Pac-12 is, it's a very simple path. And again, look no further than the 2019 Utah team. That team was going to the Pac-12 championship game and they lose. And so what happens? They don't go to the college football playoff, and the Pac-12 is unrepresented because of that. So The path is very clear. I feel like it's not rocket science. You got to be undefeated, and you got to, win the conference, obviously, and that should really write your ticket to the college football playoff. But I just think that, if you're Arizona State or UCLA and you're a one-loss team, you're not in. You're not. A one-loss UCLA team is not getting in over a one-loss LSU team or Georgia or whatever, like any of those teams. You're not getting in over those teams, in my opinion. You're just not. And with Clemson being not nearly as good as they were, in my opinion.
How about that loss?
I just think that you're talking about a college football playoff that is going to be 3 SEC teams and one other team, and that one other team is going to be determined by who doesn't lose. That's it. That's literally it.
I think when I look at what happened in the Pac-12 this weekend, I look at where Utah is as a program. I think the question that you're going to have to answer now, if we truly get an invite for BYU and they accept, and that happens before the game on Saturday night in Provo, here's a question you have to ask. Is BYU in a better position now today to win a national championship than Utah is? And I know that is a shocking, you're just playing the Holy War. This is trash. But ask yourself that question. Because as down as the Pac-12 is, can you sit here and tell me that Utah, with the way UCLA is playing, with what we've seen from Arizona State, can you really sit here and tell me that Utah's going to run the table, play for a Rose Bowl, and play in the college football playoff? I don't think you can. But if you're BYU and the 2023 season rolls around, you're going to be recruiting up. Your young talent now is going to be ready to compete in the Big 12. Are you telling me that in the first 5 years of membership in that conference that you're not going to play for a conference championship?
I think you absolutely will, but
I have a hard time. And this is something else that I think a lot of Big 12 fans on our YouTube channel have really been unhappy that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
There is no reason today, if BYU was in the Big 12, that they would not be competing.
Well, I just don't know why you would join the Big 12 if you don't expect to win the conference. What is the...
I think that there is a belief that BYU just, they've got all these 37-year-old return missionaries, and, they're nice guys, but we're talking about real football here.
I mean, if that's legitimately what people think, you're going to be...
That's what they're saying.
I mean,
read the comments on our Big 12 videos.
Bro, I mean, if people,
do you guys watch games?
If there are comments like that, and clearly there are, those folks in particular are going to be in for a rude awakening. I'm just telling you now.
Well, with the auto bid process in the college football playoff.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. If you're in the Pac-12, the Big 12, go and win the conference. It's that simple, dude. Win the conference.
The path to a national championship becomes much clearer by being a P5 member.
Yeah.
Now, for BYU, you have to go undefeated as an independent. That's it. You have to schedule way up, and you have to go in undefeated.
Yeah.
And they haven't been able to turn that trick in a decade. And so I think you're looking at a situation where now that you know who these 4 teams are, that you're going to be part of joining the Big 12, I mean, you're in a really good position because, again, with all due respect, and I know that, Oklahoma State fans were all pissed off I said this. I think if you put Oklahoma State and BYU on the same field today, that is a very close game. And I think BYU will have the ball in their hands with a chance to win that game.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen that with just about every team in the Big 12 they've played. Nobody thought BYU could go to Austin and beat Texas, and they did. And it's
Tennessee.
because nobody... I mean, if you think about SEC, ACC, Big Ten... And they got pushed around by Wisconsin. There's no doubt about that. They got pushed around by Notre Dame. There is no doubt about that. This is not that BYU football team.
Yeah.
With all due respect to Bronco Mendenhall, this is Kalani Sitake's football team.
And there's going to be sort of an awakening with the program. I mean, when you join a P5 conference and nobody really watches BYU football, in terms of the people that are in that conference, I think that there's this natural process that plays out of like, oh, wow, okay, so BYU is a lot better than we thought. And I think that process just takes time. That's just all that is.
All right, let's get into the comments section a little bit. Kenny says, morning, lads. Dane says, morning, boys. Kenny says, it's officially unofficial. BYU is in the Big 12, correct? Gabe Ledley, good morning, too. He says, morning, my guys. Can't wait to hear about Yellowstone. Being in nature is good for the soul. Oh, it so is. It so is. Stevie says, Jake,
yeah,
you look disheveled. What happened to your hair?
Yeah, I took a shower last night, and my hair just had a mind of its own today, and I just was like,
nah,
I'm good.
I ain't here for that hair fight.
I'm good.
Brylark says you guys are 10 minutes late. I was promised 6:30 in your vlog. Well, never mind.
Brylark,
nope. We're terrible people. Kenny says BYU fans are everywhere, largely due to the connection to the church. Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing that nobody wants to talk about. Oh, you can't have them damn Mormons in here. They won't play on Sunday.
Well,
but they have a huge fan base. We got to get them damn Mormons in here. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
The church absolutely comes with some stipulations. There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
But it also comes with tens of millions of football fans around the world. And that's why BYU has a continuing, renewed agreement with ESPN.
Yeah.
And so there's some things you love, and this is about everybody. There's some things you love about Cincinnati. I don't know what those things are because there's nothing for me. But I mean, everybody's got some baggage. Like, nobody cares who you are because you're Cincinnati, and nobody even likes the Reds. Anyway, Brylark says, Kenny, there is no connection. BYU is the LDS church. Kenny says, Brylark, you know what I meant. Brylark says, Kenny, yeah, the cult is everywhere. Well, cult of personality too. Josh Lovren says, but the Rose Bowl is the big ticket the Pac-12 wants. Forget the Natty. Well, but, I think the Rose Bowl is one of those games that if you don't make it to a national championship, if you don't play and if you don't get into the playoff, if you're able to play in the Rose Bowl, that is a really good consolation prize. Like the Rose Bowl is kind of a big deal.
But it's not the national championship, and it's not. Hey, the Pac-12 is relevant nationally, and that's really the conversation.
I agree. Teddy Wayman says, morning, what's up? Matt says, this week just solidified how far ahead the Big 12 is than the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is not even close to Big 12 facilities and fan support. I would agree with that. And the university I would point to in the Pac-12 that just bears that sentiment out is Cal. Cal has a beautiful renovated Memorial Stadium and nobody goes. It is a massive football coliseum and nobody goes. And
what's to go for?
It is, yeah. And I look at, like the Bay Area as far as football goes, the Bay Area is a great college basketball market. From, the WCC and St. Mary's to Cal to Stanford. It's a great college basketball market. The Bay Area is not a great college football market. Cal Stanford is not the rivalry it once was. David Shaw and Stanford have such a unique set of circumstances. It's tough to fill that stadium. Even for Notre Dame, it is tough to fill that stadium at the Farm. I look at, the Pac-12 is not high on passion. You have a great rivalry in UCLA and USC. USC football is a rite of passage. With the band and the pageantry, but how many UCLA USC games are there?
Yeah.
Because is Washington State really a game? Is Oregon State really a game?
No.
Are there many home field advantages better than Autzen? There's not. But here's the problem. Nobody cares because you don't win enough. Your fans are not passionate. I look at Utah. Nobody knows that Rice-Eccles is an unbelievable home field advantage. What I think is arguably the best in college football.
Yeah, it's epic.
Nobody knows that. Nobody knows how good the tailgating is in Salt Lake City. Nobody knows.
The pig bus pulled up a day before the game, dude.
The lack of a TV and rights deal in the Pac-12 is crippling their brands.
Yeah.
And which is shocking because you are in Silicon Valley.
It's not like you're in the middle of a desert, dude. You have resources.
You have Apple, Microsoft, Google, which is YouTube. And I mean, you have every major streaming and tech brand in your backyard.
And you still can't get it done.
And you've done nothing with it. And that's why I say when we talk about, you look at good, not great. Washington football is good, not great.
Yeah.
I look at Oregon. Oregon is good, not great. USC, UCLA, Utah.
Yeah.
Good, not great.
Yeah.
The passion that lacks in the Pac-12 is crippling them. There's no doubt about it. I look at our time in Phoenix. Speaking of Lopes fan Gabe, why will Arizona State want to avoid GCU for how many years? Because they didn't want to have.
It's got to be at least. It's got to be going on a decade at this point.
Arizona State didn't want to come to the house that Jerry built and try to win a basketball game. They didn't want to die. And you look at, again, Arizona State, Arizona's the Territorial Cup.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Oh.
70-7. Nobody cares. Herm Edwards in Arizona State, great story until they couldn't recruit within the rules.
Not the first time in the state of Arizona.
I look at that, and that's my point. Like, the best basketball brand in the Pac-12 is now crippled by a scandal.
Yeah.
Arizona, you know what? The Pac-12 is just fucking broken.
Yeah.
And there's no way to fix it.
Dumpster fire, dude.
There's no way to fix it right now.
And it's a shame. It honestly is a shame because I do think that if the Pac-12 operated on the same level as the SEC, I honestly think they'd be the best conference in the country. But they just aren't. They just don't. And I'm not sure they're capable.
Comment dump. Sorry about that. Matt says, Josh Lovren, what's up, Coach? He says, wouldn't BYU need to go undefeated in the Big 12 like Utah would have to go in the Pac-12?
Yes.
They have to win the conference.
Yes.
I don't know. Is that 2 losses? Is that 10 losses and 2 wins get you to a conference championship game? I don't know. I have no idea. But what I know is there's an auto bid in place. And what I know is that, yeah, you probably to win the Big 12, you're probably going to have to lose 1 or none. The Pac-12 does not require you to go undefeated. That conference in football especially beats the hell out of each other.
Yes.
Which, by the way, the flip side...
Another conversation.
The flip side of this conversation is basketball. What does now, you want to talk about something that Cincinnati brings to the table? Basketball. You look at what they're adding basketball-wise. I don't know how many people... And we won't know for sure. I mean, is BYU bringing all their sports to the Big 12? I would think so. If you look at the basketball powerhouse that the Big 12 now becomes,
yeah,
man, think about
there's a lot there.
Just adding BYU and Cincinnati for basketball is unbelievable, right? And think about the loss of BYU to the WCC. I mean, that's a big loss for that conference. I mean, I think BYU will never be in a better position to get themselves a seat at the table.
And that's the thing. Like,
never.
It feels like it's almost like it's like they've finally come into their own as a person in life, and now they can do whatever they want to do because they've built all this great stuff. And now they're just like, it's like you're at the table, and do you want to do this or don't you want to do this? And obviously, I think it's pretty clear they do want to do it. So, I think the whole question of, is it just football? Is it everything? Is it football and basketball and not everything else? Like, I think all of those things are definitely relevant questions. And I think that, football is the sport that matters. But, when you're sitting at the table with all these, head of the schools, they're obviously going to be talking about all the sports. So that'll definitely be interesting.
Yeah, and I just think you're leaving the Pac-12 with its decision publicly saying they're not going to expand.
That's on them, dude. I just think that.
What was the thought process there?
Like, it's bad business. It's been bad. And this,
yeah.
You know what's funny? This kind of alludes to why Larry Scott had his job for so long. Like, we're now seeing how just incompetent the Pac-12 really is.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the presidents and you look at the people that are really running the Pac-12, I mean, there is a lack of understanding of what it takes to win at a high level.
Yeah.
And you can call yourself the Conference of Champions. That's all well and good. Nobody cares that you won another water polo national championship. Nobody cares. and I'm trying to be respectful. Nobody even knows that the Pac-12 has a great heritage of baseball. Nobody knows that, and nobody cares. This is a football and basketball town, and it's always going to be that way. And if you want to win, you better win in football and basketball. And I'm telling you, you look at Baylor. Look what Baylor did in basketball last year.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not a better basketball conference than the Big 12. The moment this is announced, the Pac-12 is not. And I dare say, once this is announced and then the teams actually join, which most people believe will be in 2 years, the Big 12 is a better conference than the Pac-12.
Yeah. Even without Texas and Oklahoma, which is saying something.
They're a better conference than the Pac-12. And my question is, who's the first one to pull the ripcord on the Pac-12? Is it USC? Who is it? Because, by the way, the unspoken is, what happens when OU and Texas leave and actually go to the SEC? My guess is before that ever happens, and this is just a guess, my guess is that the Big 12 will raid the Pac-12. Because once you start actually diagnosing this, once these teams are announced, and you add these 4 new clubs to the Big 12, people all of a sudden are going to start doing some math. And they're like, wait a minute, Baylor and BYU and Oklahoma State and Cincinnati, and we have all of the, now wait a minute, wait a minute. Are you saying that the SEC doesn't own Texas? Because the Big 12 is going to have multiple institutions there? And wait a minute, are you saying, you start doing the math and you're like, well, the Big 12, what if the Big 12 added Utah and Colorado? And all of a sudden now they own the Rockies and they own Texas. And, because they're going to have Colorado, Utah, and BYU in the Rockies. They're going to have Texas Tech and Baylor and Houston. Okay. And now you're going to have some reach into Florida to recruit. And now you're going to have some reach into the Midwest with Cincinnati. Now all of a sudden, it's not so crazy that all these teams in the Pac-12 might be looking at the Big 12, might be looking at the SEC.
And there's nothing the Pac-12 has to say against that. That's the thing.
No, and this is why we talked about this, and this is how this conversation, everybody said that I was crazy and there's no super conference coming. BYU has always been the tipping point for the Big 12 to turn into a super conference. Because I will still maintain today, the same thing that I heard 4 years ago that we're hearing now, is that ultimately there's no way for the Pac-12 to sustain itself if they lose just one school. Because if they lose one, they're going to almost certainly lose 2. Because let's say Utah leaves, there's no reason for Colorado to stay, and not many people want Colorado to stay in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Right? If USC leaves, what do you say to UCLA? Because aren't they a package deal? I would think they are. And after that, I mean, the brands you really want there are Washington and Oregon because you want the Nike money. Right? I mean, you want the Oregon-Nike relationship in your conference. There's no doubt about that. But does it make geographical sense that you would have Oregon in the SEC or Oregon in the ACC? It makes no sense. But if you have a super conference that merges the Pac-12 and the Big 12, it's made sense for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Now going forward, are you telling me, by the way, that you think the SEC's done with Texas and Oklahoma? You're high. Because I'm telling you, Florida State and ACC, Florida State and Clemson desperately want to be in the SEC.
I just think that at the end of the day, if you're the Pac-12, all this can be avoided by just being better. Just be better, like execute. Like,
but I think they're at their ceiling because they don't. There was all this talk about listen. We're all master's degreed up, and we're doctors.
Better fucking execution.
Yeah, we're PhDs. And we put out lawyers and actors and accountants and physicists.
Congratulations, but that's bullshit.
We don't know how to win at athletics. That means we got to sweat. Well, let's talk about the science of sweating. See, no, let's not. Because the Pac-12 doesn't care if they win.
Yeah. That's the problem.
They more care about Oscars and Emmys at USC. Like they more care about laureates and science at Stanford. This is this whole thing about BYU can't get into this conference because of they're not a research institution. Well, it turns out when your researchers are crawling up the asses of cockroaches looking for bacteria, it doesn't really help you win football games. And all of a sudden, now you care about football and basketball.
Yeah, I like football. I like football season and all the things that go with it.
Yeah, so does the Big 12, and they're coming for you. I'm telling you right now, it's cool that you're a research institution and we can grow mold in the orifices of mountain lions.
Okay.
But you're not going to be in existence. The Pac-12 is going to die a very slow death, and not many people are going to remember it fondly when there's a super conference. So, anyway, I could keep going.
Oh, okay. All right.
By the way, we've passed 1,800 subscribers on this channel, and a lot of people are like, hey, you guys don't talk about that Traeger smoker giveaway.
We're still giving it away, man.
Why don't you just give it to me? Well, we'd like to give it to you and all of your friends. Have them subscribe to this channel. We are giving away a Traeger Ironwood 650 smoker when we get to 2,500 subscribers. You're going to get some pellets. You're going to get all the accoutrements. You're going to get a nice little cover. The cover's critical. Trust me.
It does. By the way, it does come with a power cord. I just want to clarify.
Okay.
It does come with a power cord.
You're going to need an extension cord. But the point is, we are going to give that bad boy away. All you have to do is subscribe. Take a photo that you're subscribed and then tag us on social media. Both of us, he is SLC Supercars.
Right.
I am the Monty Show, Monty, the Monty Show.
It's a package deal like USC and UCLA.
Yeah, you get my package.
Packages.
You can do that on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, which I love. I love TikTok. I've gotten into it.
There you go.
I have. So, yeah, let's do this thing. We just passed 1,800 subscribers, meteorically rising through the ranks.
Yes.
We appreciate you being here. Who needs it more, BYU or Utah?
Boy.
Oh, it's a simple answer.
I mean, BYU needs it more for sure. I mean, they need the P5 ranking. They need that. There's no question about that. But
no. Who needs the game more this weekend?
Oh, well,
it's Utah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know, dude. I think that's yes. Utah
Really?
needs it more. Yeah, because I think that BYU has a lot on the line. They're talking about going to another conference. They're talking about doing all this stuff. How great would it be for BYU to win the Holy War and be like, yeah, here's the bird, Utah. We're gonna go to the Big 12 and we're gonna get to the college football playoff before you do. Like, how great would that be for BYU? I mean,
I think the ultimate irony is going to be that they will likely, if you believe sources, reporting says that the Big 12 is going to make this announcement Friday. And if that's the case, I think the Holy War gets turned up a notch.
If it wasn't turned up enough already.
And listen, it's on ESPN Saturday night at 8 o'clock Mountain. If you've never watched a BYU-Utah game, A, you're missing out. B, you got to watch it Saturday night. I am going to have a mountain of wings on the smoker. Saturday, probably 6 o'clock. I'm going to load up the smoker with a whole pile of wings. I mean, an ass load.
I'm going to have like 20 of them.
No, you're not.
What?
You always say that. Oh, I'll knock them down. Like all 3 wings and the flats only, please. So I'm going to do a bunch of wings. And then Saturday night, it's going to be BYU and Utah. And
Having fun is the name of the game.
It's going to be amazing. And I'm stoked for it. And I think Utah needs this game far more than BYU does. A, to be able to say, well, we beat you for a decade straight, 10 straight years. That's the hammer. Because I'm telling you now, your 9 straight wins mean absolutely nothing if you lose, and that's after BYU gets into the Big 12. Now, here comes you're irrelevant anyways. We just beat you, and we're in the Big 12, and we're going to win a national championship before you.
If you guys ever want to kick it, we'll float.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to hang out with us and stuff. And I mean, if you want to transfer, just get in the portal. You can come down and wear the Y.
Portal.
Just hop on the portal, man. This is why you hop on the portal. This is why like BYU.
See what he did there. It's just the why, but then it all fits together.
Yeah, commingling and stuff.
Right.
The point is, Utah needs this game desperately, and if Friday BYU is a member of the Big 12, my God, it now becomes a must-win for Utah.
It became personal with me.
Woo! How the ultimate trump card. How to erase 9 years of death and destruction by Utah in this rivalry? Well, that'd be to beat them after getting a Big 12 invite. Would. And the question is, does BYU wait 2 years to join the conference, or they join immediately? Because they don't have to pay an exit fee or worry about grant of rights.
Independent.
They're free to do whatever the hell they want.
Yep.
Do they join immediately as a football school?
Could be.
Could be. And then you already have a seat at the table. Like Saturday morning, they're like, oh, hey, it's a Big 12. We whittled that chair out of a log, and it's at the table now. Come have a seat. The funeral potatoes are hot, right? That would be amazing.
Yes.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
Utah needs this win more. But who was more impressive at quarterback? Charlie Brewer. First of all,
Yeah.
what'd you think of Jaron Hall?
I thought it was good after the first quarter. I thought the first quarter was kind of
okay.
We're going to drag our feet. We're going to be slow starters. We're going to try and figure this thing out. We're going to run the football a lot. But then the second quarter rolled around. He made that throw to the far sideline.
He did.
And I thought he started to wake up a little bit. And I thought once he started making some throws, you started to see that arm talent come out. I thought the wheel route up the sideline, I thought that was a nice little play that they ran. And I think it ultimately displayed his athleticism. At the end of the day, this guy, Jaron Hall is someone who is very athletic, has a strong arm, and is very capable. Now the question is going to be, are his receivers healthy? Can Algier continue to be the beast that he is? And if so, you're going to be in great shape. Now, that said, I think, what you were about to ask me is who looked better. I think Charlie Brewer looked incredibly good. I thought the throws he made were really solid. The ball was in the right place at the right time. I just felt like with Utah, I guess I expected them. It didn't feel like you kicked the living hell out of Weber. That's the thing. I get that Weber's better this year, and they're better than anyone gives them credit for, but I don't give a damn about that. It's Weber. You're Utah. Handle it, So that would be my only complaint for Utah.
I think Charlie Brewer looked much better. Yeah. I actually thought he was as advertised, which when you bring a new guy into a program like Utah and all we heard about was, 1 million yards and 5 trillion touchdowns he threw at Baylor. He actually looked really good. I thought his ball placement was great. His decision-making was good, and that doesn't mean Jaron was bad. I think you're right. He had some nerves. He got rid of that. I thought the run up the sideline was great. I think the thing, if you're BYU, that's so exciting is the Pau, Hill, Chris Jackson looked really good. The thing that worries you a little bit is the injury factors, the injury implications coming out of those auto ads are terrible.
Dude, ESPN is full of them.
Coming out of the Arizona game, you have some injury concerns. We'll see what the Nakua brothers look like going forward. But I think what you got in the running game to average 4.7 yards against Arizona, who's got a pretty stout defensive line, I think is really good. The thing that worries me about BYU is that they tend to be a little soft in defense. I thought that their secondary issues were, when you replace that much talent on defense, I think you're always going to struggle a little bit, but it is concerning to me that they just play, they don't play prevent. It's just that they do everything they could do not to give up big plays, and they're happy to give up 16 yards instead of 36 yards.
They play soft, there's no doubt.
They play a little soft at the back of this defense, and I would rather them be a little more stout. But you know what? I look at some of the numbers, and I thought Peely played well. The Wilgar played well. I look at the fact that you got to the quarterback as much as you did against Arizona. But then again, I flip that coin around and I say to myself, neither one of these offensive lines looked all that good. Utah's got offensive line issues. There's no question about that.
Yes.
I think BYU's offensive line
Not much better.
Not much better. I mean, you give up 8 tackles for loss.
Think about it. Like,
Arizona played in your backfield.
think about it though. Like, Jaren is much more athletic than Charlie is, and I think that this has been a conversation since before the season started, and we were in these fake quarterback battles, as I like to call it, because I don't believe there was ever a quarterback battle. I think it was Jaren's job the whole time. But that's one of the biggest things he has going for him, and I think that, you know, last year, if you watched Zach Wilson at all, you saw there were a lot of times where he had to scramble and you know, find that opening in the play where he could stop on the run and just fire that thing down the field. And I think we're going to see a lot of that out of Jaren this year. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that the BYU offensive line can't be productive, but I just think overall there's a difference between having that dominant offensive line that can really give you a lot of protection, open holes up in the running game, versus having a mediocre line like we have in both of these programs that is kind of there, but most of the time isn't. You know, and I think, frankly, coming into Saturday in the Holy War, that's going to be something to watch. I mean, we're sitting here discussing how you have two, what I would say nicely is two average offensive lines. They're not horrible, but they're not great either.
They're not great.
So, like, average is what I would go with. You have two average offensive lines. Who's going to execute better? Who's going to make that play at the quarterback position versus who's going to throw that interception? I literally think that's what that game is going to come down to.
You know, it's interesting. You know, like Shokai Shimayumama. Sorry, I can't pronounce names at all.
Who the fuck are you?
Like every day, like almost on the hour, we get comments on the Big 12 videos. He says, credit to you guys. You've been saying BYU to the Big 12 for the last 12 months.
Just saying.
You know, he went on to talk about basketball's critical. They have to join by all sports. But I appreciate that you've been spot on. I don't think that this is like some national security issue. Anybody that didn't believe. But listen, we've been saying this for years. Back to 2015 when we left Salt Lake and moved to Arizona. We broke the story that BYU was on the cusp of getting invited, and then this whole Texas wanted a super conference thing happen.
BYU is a weapon of mass destruction in college football.
Yeah, right? I mean, you know, it's just been elusive. So, yes, I'm happy to take credit that we've been on this big BYU to the Big 12
thing. Is this
thing.
like a life cycle in our show?
I think it is. But because the thing that stands out to you is BYU is very valuable. And so when you talk about Utah versus BYU, I absolutely think a win for either one of these teams, and I get all the DMs saying that BYU is going to make an announcement in the next 2 days. Hey, that's cool.
Yeah, hey, you know.
It becomes a massive game. And I think when I look at the big question is Gunnar Romney for me.
Yeah.
Is he out for the year or not? He's certainly not going to play anytime soon, it doesn't look like.
And this is why I'm saying the wide receiver room's a problem. It's a problem. You've got to have health there to be successful.
The Nakua brothers?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Dude. Yeah.
I'm telling you now, like, you don't be a bust because they need you. Let's get some of your comments in here. Matt says, Big 12 fan here, go BYU, make a statement. The Big 12 dominates the pack. Tanner Plummer says BYU might join the Big 12 in 2023. The reason why is because there's one report saying that BYU is playing Notre Dame in Vegas in 2022, but we'll see. That doesn't mean that you have to cancel all of your scheduling. I mean, you're going to have to rearrange some things. There's no doubt about that. This just in, BYU is going to make an announcement at 12 Mountain Time. NPS 24 says. Today? That'd be awesome if it happened today. Chris Morris says, Brewer is fun to watch. The kid is tough as crap. Yeah, that's the other thing that I think nobody talked about was Charlie Brewer took some hits in that game.
Yes, he did.
I mean, I'm telling you, Weber is I would be stunned if they were playing for an FCS championship. I mean, what he's done there is amazing. They are really a hard-headed, tough football team at Weber. MPS says, I'm friends with the ad guy at BYU. He said they're going to make an announcement at noon. Well, I hope they do. I mean,
sources.
Yeah. You know, Jordan Crabtree says, I went down to the game in Vegas, had an incredible stadium, great atmosphere. Again, dude, the BYU crowd Saturday night at Allegiant was unbelievable.
I mean, it literally was
unbelievable.
Blue, like entirely blue.
Yeah.
Insane.
Daryl Adams says Wilger hits like a truck. He does. MPS 24 says Gunnar Romney's out for the season. He tore his ACL. Oh, that'd be too bad.
Damn.
We'll find. I mean, obviously, Kalani's been kind of coy about that, as you would expect, because that's HIPAA. We actually used to play drops on the show, but we don't anymore.
You roll out the HIPAA drop on me like all the time.
I mean,
HIPAA?
Yeah, that's HIPAA. We can't talk about ACLs.
I think that's HIPAA.
MPS says Kalani said, Tanner says Kalani said that he's not out for the. But what's Kalani going to say though?
I think that's HIPAA.
Right. Daryl Adams says Tom Homo will just announce application. Nothing from the Big 12 yet. I have Jimmer on speed dial. There you go. Casey says, hated to see Gunnar get hurt, but both Nakuas will play Saturday. They need the Nakua brothers. This is one of those situations where it's like, oh, we're badasses. We're going to Provo. If you put up a dud, that would be tragic.
Kind of like Charlie Brewer.
That'd be tragic.
Yeah.
The Nakua brothers need to show up and perform, without a doubt. Casey says, Jordan Crabtree, I was there as well. I agree with all that. Great time in Vegas. Are we going to preview NFL kickoff tomorrow or Thursday morning? Brylark says, yes,
Hell
absolutely.
yes, we are. Hell
absolutely.
Yes. Dude,
but, I mean, the Patriots are winning the Super Bowl again. I mean,
ask ESPN. They'll tell you.
Yeah, I mean, you got Mac Brady there. So, I mean, why isn't he wearing the number 12?
Oh, my God, dude.
The
hoodie is back at it again.
I will just say this. I so desperately want the Los Angeles Rams to be good. I want them to be good.
Uh-huh.
I really want them to be good. Because if the Bears are going to suck, I'm going to be a Rams fan. And the Bears are going to suck.
For like 3 weeks, and then dude's going to come in for the Red Rocket.
And then, I mean, Justin Fields is going to get hurt on like the second snap and never play another down in the NFL. I mean, he's a Bears quarterback. He can't be very good at all.
Right.
We know the Bears don't have quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Spencer Morgan says, definitely a BYU-centric show, at least during football season. It's the smart move, though, for ratings. But see, everybody asks us about this.
I love that this gets brought up.
Why do you guys, if you're going to talk so much BYU, why do you drink caffeinated beverages? Because we are a BYU-centric show, I guess. We talk a lot of Utah. Last week it was, well, you guys are a Utah-centric team. How much...
And he will every single time.
You guys are such a Utah-centric show. How much weed are you
Guys,
smoking?
do you guys only talk Jazz? Do you only talk Jazz? What about Lakers?
How do you talk Jazz when you don't watch the games? Right? We get that all the time. And then, of course, when we talk Pac-12, people are like, nobody cares about the Pac-12. Talk Big 12. Okay.
Here's the game plan.
We talk all football. And we talk a ton of NFL on this show. Like a month ago when we were talking NFL draft, people are like, hey, how come you're not talking about, like the Big 12 or Pac-12? Let's talk college football. Like there's something here for everybody. If you're an ass man, we've got that too. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I love the videos on TikTok where they're like, left hand for ass, right hand. I love that. I love those. Come on, Monty. Jets. Stop,
dude.
CG4UT. No.
We're not buying a Zach Wilson Jets jersey. It's not happening.
Yeah.
I'm not permitting it.
No, I'm not a Jets fan. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. Long suffering. But it was fun. This weekend up at Yellowstone, I wore my Bears hat. And people were like all about it. Oh, go Bears. I'm like, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. How ballsy would it have been for Mac Jones to walk in there and be like, nah, give me 12? Oh, my God, that would have been amazing.
But how is 12 not retired yet?
Because he's still playing.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
And people haven't gotten over the fact that he went and won another Super Bowl with Tampa.
Yeah.
I
guess.
I think Bill Belichick has to win another Super Bowl without Tom.
He has to. He has to answer, for sure. He has to.
Has to.
Yeah, I like football. I like football season and all the things that go with it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's got to.
Yeah.
He's got to.
Brady's gotten over on him so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to make a Utah BYU prediction yet.
It's too early in the week. Come on.
Yeah, it's only Tuesday. We got to string this out for at least a month. I felt like we got pretty close on BYU and Utah though on their games.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall they were pretty straightforward. I think that I just think it's it's basically week one. Like you're gonna have some issues. These teams are not at their best yet. I mean, I think the Pac-12 losing all those games is it's just like LSU losing to UCLA. Who saw that coming?
What do you do if you are Washington right now?
You change
so
quarterbacks.
let me get this right. You sold out to make sure Jimmy Lake didn't go anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. And you had everything you needed. You had a really good defense, and Pete Kwiatkowski, the defensive coordinator, had to take a co-defensive coordinator to keep Jimmy Lake happy, and then you named Jimmy Lake the heir apparent, and finally Jimmy Lake's the head coach, and this is my team, and we got stomped by Montana.
I started having second thoughts.
Montana.
And not to say I told you so again. I told you should have started Heward. I said on the because he's gonna play now. You can't throw 3 interceptions against Montana and keep your job.
Oh,
you can't do
God.
it. And the worst thing for Washington is they're probably like, well, look, we're not gonna overreact here.
What the fuck does one thing have to do with the other?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you lost to Montana. That's what it has to do with the other.
Montana's known for badminton, bro. They're not known for football. You threw 3 picks against Montana.
Yosemite.
Are you thinking you're keeping your job? We'll see what happens. Carolina sports guy says, since it doesn't loom like the Mountain West Conference will lose, it doesn't seem. Is that what you meant to say? Mountain West will lose any members for now. What do you think the AAC will do being down to 8 members? Raid the Sun Belt or Conference USA? Bullet. I think one of the things we always talk about, like P5 expansion, I think you are going to see G5 contraction. One of these conferences is going to melt because
it has to.
Who is notably absent from Big 12 expansion? Washington State. Boise's not going anywhere, right? I mean, by the way, did anybody see what Utah State did? Where's Utah State? They're not. Aggie tears. We get it. One of these conferences is going away. It's going away. And I think much to Carolina sports guys' point, I mean, the AAC is far more attractive, in my opinion, than the Mountain West, but the Mountain West is intact and the AAC is not. You're a wolf limping around the wilderness right now. I mean, it's only a matter of time before somebody's coming for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the G5 conferences. We talk so much about these big conferences, but I'm telling you, the group of 5 conferences are really important to college football. And it's going to be interesting to see. The answer is I don't know. I don't know. The
answer is I think that's a rough place to be. That's the answer. I think it's you have to wait for the Big 12 stuff to cool off. You then you basically got to wait so college football kind of levels out. All the P5s, and then from there, then you got to assess the situation and figure out what even your options are. I mean, that's the tough part.
I'm curious, and this is just me. I'm curious. What do you do if you are teams like, I mean, who's the best available right now? I mean, Colorado State, Boise State have to be in that conversation. SMU's got to be in that conversation. I mean, I think Houston was a pivotal get for the Big 12 because I think BYU would not have gone without them.
Yeah.
And
we had heard those rumblings that Houston was out.
Yeah, and I think that kind of I don't know. It'll be there's gonna be a book about this or something.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out because I think the Big 12 needed Houston. They needed all 4 corners of that state, and they got it. When you look at Baylor, Tech, TCU, and now Houston, I mean, that's a Big 12 state now. And I think that was they needed that.
Well, and I think to your point, you were kind of alluding to this earlier in the show. Like, I think if you're the Big 12, you're looking to sort of widen out. You're looking to, yes, it's called expansion, but I think furthermore, it's kind of like hey, we want to dominate Texas, but then we also want to dip into Florida. We want to dip into the Midwest and Ohio. Like we if we were to ever get into super conference territory, yeah, what do the Washington schools look like, or Oregon, or like I think there's a lot of credence to that, because if you're going to go this far, what's stopping them from being a 16-team conference at some point in the next 10 years, Because to your point, they're going to once Texas and Oklahoma leave, you're going to go back to 12 teams. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, it's been several years. Where's the Pac-12 at? Where, how can we get one of those schools? And then, again, just like you were saying, if that were to ever happen, now you're talking about, okay, once one Pac-12 school leaves, now it's just the house of cards is falling. Now it's just who's going to survive and who's not.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see, all of these schools. I mean, I don't know how many people are following the other schools outside of BYU. Houston has a Board of Regents meeting. Cincinnati apparently is having some kind of private powwow. And my guess is it's not to figure out how to be relevant in any sport or how to get Kenyon Martin back. Remember when Kenyon Martin was at Cincinnati? No, you don't, because you're too young.
But
anyway,
that's
the point.
That's the beauty of college basketball.
You have all of these other schools now having meetings. I think BYU's had their meetings. I think BYU has had their conversations. I think they're ready to go. And if BYU truly, and again, I can't remember my man's name, MPS 24, I think it was, or whoever, if BYU truly is having a meeting at noon today, listen, I think that's, or an announcement at noon today, I think that's exactly the right move to make. We'll see if that happens.
But isn't that why BYU is in this position? Because they are a program that sits down, says, okay, here's where we are.
Yes.
Here's our options. What do we want to do? Okay, great. We're going to go this way. All right, cool.
I think
I look at the Built Bar deal that came through basically out of the blue in the NIL situation.
That's the great example, though.
Like think about it. They sat down. Clearly, this is how this process plays out. Hey, NIL is now a thing. We have an opportunity to make a lot of freaking money in the program using the NIL rules. How can we do that? Who do we know? What are the relationships? Oh, hey, Built Bar. We know a guy over there. Let's go talk to them.
But that's what BYU is, and I think a lot of people don't talk about this, but yeah. BYU is a network. BYU is a coffee clutch.
I'm sorry.
BYU is a
coffee clutch? What's a clutch?
Well, I didn't say crotch, so stop.
Oh, you said clutch.
Yes. BYU is a community, and that community strengthens itself from within. And we can sit here and talk about Sunday play and the honor code, and we can sit here and go over every reason why BYU is uncomfortable for the Pac-12.
God bless.
But the things that people don't want to talk about is BYU's built a brand. BYU's built an ATM machine. BYU has built themselves into a must-have. Because right now, if you think about how the script has been rewritten over the last 4 years, the Big 12 can't expand without BYU. If I'd have said that to you 4 years ago, you'd have called me crazy. BYU has earned it. And it's because they make great schedules. It has nothing to do with what a bishop or an apostle said in a speech 2 Mondays ago. That's not what this is about.
That's a great point.
This is about football and basketball and making money. And for BYU, this is about growing the brand of the church. And it all works together. Again, I don't want to hear about caffeinated beverages and the honor code in the ceiling room and look at his magic underwear. Who cares?
God bless.
Because you're not there without BYU. So we can talk about all the cool stereotypes you want. The Big 12 can't expand without BYU. And if I went to the Pac-12 right now today and said, hey, you can have BYU in your conference, my guess is they'd be like, well, yeah, we probably should do that.
You have a deal.
And I would hope that BYU would be like, nah, peace out. Taking my magic underpants over to the Big 12. Because the stereotypes and the ridiculousness and all the pain of the rhetoric that has come out of the aloof and the noses up in the air in Palo Alto and Berkeley and Washington and
on the Hill.
up on the hill. Right now, it all means a pile of nothing because BYU is getting into the Big 12, and BYU now has just as good or maybe a little better chance to win a national championship than all of those other guys do. And that's what the bottom line is.
And that's why people get pissed.
Because what's good for the church is what's good for BYU. And what's good for BYU football and basketball is what's good for the Big 12. It's that simple. So I'm tired. I've grown tired of the stereotypes and the rhetorics.
Yeah, well, I think, it's I don't blame you, but I think at the same time that stuff's never going away.
And
by the way, I think winning helps that stuff go away. Win more.
Yeah.
Do more.
Boise and Memphis will be next after leave. The AAC pick up a few teams. Can't drop the AAC to less than 8 teams because that would be tortious interference. I think Memphis is a really good name. I think Memphis is not. But the problem with Memphis is rapidly becoming now a prolific basketball recruiter.
I was going to say, yeah.
They're becoming a prolific basketball recruiter. And, as BYU fans are aware, that the football team's good. But if you put Memphis, go Tigers, in the Big 12, do you think the Memphis Tigers are winning a national championship in the next decade? Or competing for one? Well, if you put BYU in the Big 12, are they competing for a national championship? I think I can make a pretty convincing argument that they are.
Yeah, I think they're competing to get into the college football playoff. That's where they are right now. I also think too, like if they were to beat Utah to the college football playoff, first of all, that would be unbelievable times in this state. Second of all, I think that for BYU, like I was just saying, I think winning helps. Like winning brings credibility to the program. I agree with you that I think a lot of people outside of the state of Utah don't know what BYU is. They just think it's like a cult program, basically.
I look at Brylark's funny. Brylark, I love you, dude. I'm really glad you're here. I look forward to reading your comments every day because you create gold like this. Brylark says BYU had a tough breakup and decided to take some years to work on themselves. They got super fit and attractive, and they are now ready to date again.
He broke up with you over text message?
Yes, Jake did. Wow, that's a great drop. Yeah, BYU is ready. BYU has a six-pack. They've been doing squats, so those glutes are in great shape, right?
Got the buns.
Love that. Carolina sports guy says, I think you mean Boise academics are atrocious. Well, they're not great. Jackson Graham says, BYU talk, let's go. Hi, Jackson. Nice to see you. Yes, Carolina says Boise, not noise. Dom Hill says,
you're right,
LOL.
They don't make noise.
They
You're
don't.
Right.
The only thing loud in Boise is that blue turf. Casey Finland says, serve a 2-year church mission, and the rhetoric you hear about BYU means nothing. Truth. Daryl Adams says the playoff will expand. I think it has to expand.
I mean, at some point. I mean, how long have we been talking about just that? Like, take BYU out of this. Like, take expansion out of this. It's frustrating to me, and I don't blame the SEC for being as good as they are, because I'm a big believer we shouldn't be penalizing people for being successful. Right?
Correct.
So I don't hold their success against them. But what I do think is frustrating is that for college football fans, just your average fan, not your diehard, cover the game like we do, but just your average fan who likes to have it on, it's frustrating to see, it's Alabama and then everybody else in the college football playoff, and it's only 4 teams.
Correct.
And then you have this whole dynamic with the college basketball tournament where it's like all these teams and bracketology and let's go ham.
Let's go ham.
Like, that's what it is, dude. Water cooler stuff, right? Think about it. Every single year, we go into the office before the pandemic. We would go into the office.
Yes.
We're rocking our college basketball jerseys over our polo shirts and everything, and it's a whole thing. And there's trash talk, and we all loved it. Can't do that in the college football playoff for whatever reason, because they just think it should be only 4 teams, which I can't for the life of me understand.
Because the SEC controls everything.
Yeah, well.
I mean, and the SEC is, I should say, I had dreams about Nick Saban last night. That was I had a dream that Nick Saban was coaching the Raiders, who got a second team. There were two Raiders, one Raider team in Las Vegas, another in Honolulu, Hawaii, that Jerry Jones owned. It was a long night of sleep. Sam Kim says it's more up to San Diego State wanting to join a major conference. I don't think they care enough about major athletics to do that. I don't think that San Diego State values athletics.
Yeah.
And I love San Diego State. We talked about them last week on the show. I think San Diego State is fine just being who they are wherever they are. I don't think that they and I think that's a great point by Sam Kim. They just want to go to Los Coyotes Cafe and eat tortillas and compete.
Dude? My God.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Wow. Comment dump. Jackson Graham says, BYU already beat Utah to be televised on ESPN and to win a championship. Utah is known for running the ball and defense. I'm glad both schools are 1-0. Yeah, it's critical that both teams are 1-0.
This will be one of the best games in the Holy War scene in
the last 10 years.
Sometime.
And by the way, let's not make it like Utah has run that they've just crushed BYU for 9 years, because that's not the case. How many of these games have come down to one possession?
Very, very close.
Remember Kalani's decision at the goal line, and I mean it is. Come on,
yeah.
Who are we kidding?
But last thing on the Holy War, I think this year, because both of them have something to lose, because I do think that it would be, egg on BYU's face to lose this game as they're getting into the Big 12. That would not be a great look. Wouldn't be ideal. So I do think in that light, they do have something to lose. Utah has a lot more to lose. I can admit that. But at the end of the day, my point is this isn't some crappy-ass BYU team, playing Utah. And really what I want to say is it's a real damn shame that Zach Wilson never got a chance to be part of this, because I think that team, last year's team, would have been a real problem for Utah.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I cannot wait for this game.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
I cannot wait for this game.
It's going to be awesome.
To me, it is just so critical. It is critical. All right, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Please also subscribe to our channel. Obviously, it helps the channel grow. We are giving away a Traeger smoker when we get to 2,500 subscribers. At some point, we're going to give away this Xbox Series S.
It's just kind of sitting here. We don't have a way to give it away. We don't, we're just kind of, someone's got to come in here and take this thing. So you got to come in and do something. We can't tell you what that is. We can't tell you, just be. It's kind of like what happened with the last Xbox with Growcock. Growcock just kind of came into the comments, said, "Give it to me," and all of a sudden there was a wave of people who wanted it to happen.
And by the way, then we never heard from Growcock again.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to business, because we got to roll here pretty quick. All right, so our non-sports stories today. You got the Pfizer, your first Pfizer vaccine shot on Friday.
Yep.
How are you feeling? What were
None. I had a little bit of a headache, but other than that,
Nothing.
Yeah, it was fine.
Man, it crushed me. I wonder if that's because A, you've had Corona, B, you've had the J&J shot.
I think that's why. I think I was thinking about it before. My appointment was at 11:30 at a CVS. I got there, of course, way too early because I, thought it would take me longer to get there. So I got there at 11, and you can't even check in until 11:15. So I'm sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, okay, theoretically, right? I'm going all InfoWars on it.
Infowars.com.
Theoretically, this shouldn't do anything to me. Theoretically, because I have antibodies, I have a vaccine, I've got I've been through the process.
Infowars.com.
And what do you know? Nothing happened to me.
Infowars.com.
Yeah. Right? So really nothing happened to me.
But all the magnets are sticking to you now, right?
The injection point hurt a little bit, and that was it. A little bit of a headache, but nothing crazy.
All right, so I left for Yellowstone Friday morning at 6:30.
Yeah. Right.
Something like that. The first thing was the paver patio thing happened. So we were supposed to have our paver patio done last Friday, the 27th.
That was the original estimate.
Didn't happen. Oh, it rained. We got delayed. My mom is alive, so I can't finish your patio.
Right.
I have to pee, so I can't finish your patio. Every excuse under the sun.
Right.
So finally, the guy comes back, and I tell him last Monday, hey, we have a party scheduled for Saturday. I need this paver patio done. It's Mrs. Monty's birthday. Leave town Friday, does not finish the patio. Comes back on Friday, They work half a day. They leave. Comes back 2-3 hours later with his wife, and they get to like 80%.
So the issue was that day, the reason he left is because his worker, his helper guy, who he had brought with, doesn't have a car.
He
so
doesn't.
He has to drop this guy
He
off.
told me he doesn't drive and he doesn't speak English, and I had to take him home. And okay, fine. But that doesn't mean you can't finish my patio on time. So he comes back Saturday. Here's where the thing gets crazy. He comes back Saturday, finishes the patio.
At like 3 o'clock, way late.
Refuses to leave until he gets paid. Now, I'm at Yellowstone, and I don't know how many people know this. At Yellowstone, you have 0 cell signal. Not a little. 0. Like you are off the grid at Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Which was pretty amazing, by the way. Not surfing.
Hello.
Was amazing. But you could go to the Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel, and you can get some Wi-Fi there. So I went, and it just happened that Jake's like, hey, you need to call me. This guy won't leave until until he gets paid. It's like, okay, that's fine. So he puts me on the phone. I call Jake on Wi-Fi calling, terrible connection. And the guy's like, I'm not leaving until I get paid. And he basically is hinting he's going to tear up the patio, is at least what was in my mind. And I'm like, hey, man, I can't pay you if I wanted to. And by the way, I don't want to, is what I said to the guy. I said, you're way late. We had to change plans. And you don't communicate. And he's like, well, I wish you understood how hard it is to do this job. And I said, well, actually, we used to do what you do. So I know exactly how difficult your job is. But that doesn't change the fact you didn't finish on time. And so the guy won't leave. He just won't leave.
Yeah.
And so finally I said to him, if you want to get paid, you'll be at my front door on Tuesday morning at 8:30. And we're going to talk about it. And we're going to negotiate. And I'm going to come to a term. And we're going to pay you. And you're going to invoice me. And you're going to get paid on the spot. But you're going to come and we're going to negotiate. And so he agreed to that. Now the patio is done. And it actually looks good.
Yeah.
It's 10 days late. And it's just been an incredibly frustrating process because you can't call him. And he doesn't reply to emails unless you're like, hey, because I told him in one email, hey, if you're not going to reply to me, I'm just going to assume the job's over and I'm going to get somebody else to do the job and you're not going to get paid. And then what do you know? All of a sudden he's like, well, I'll be here at this time. He wasn't. And it'll be done on this day. It wasn't. So We'll see what happens at 8:30, which is in about 30 minutes. Will he be on time? Because if he's late, I'm not talking to him. I'm not. Like, I have a job to do. Like, I don't have all day to wait for this guy to show up. And this is what he does. When you say 8:30, he shows up at 11.
Yeah, and that's why he's late.
So we'll see what happens.
Because if you think about it, that's several hours a day you're not working. So you end up losing a day, which how late, at the end of the day, he ended up being late by 1 full day.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. And then there's the tire situation. So, I drive an Audi SQ5, and I tried to buy wheels 2 weeks ago. Months back ordered, canceled the wheel order. All right, I'll get my Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. Summer tires.
Performance tire.
All right, we're going to go to this Big O tire in Cottonwood. We've had a great experience there. All right, hey, man, I want to order, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. All right, cool, they'll be here. All right, show up Friday morning. We'll put them on. All right, great. Jake takes my SQ5 while I'm up at Yellowstone, takes it there. They put on all seasons. And Jake texts me. He's like, hey, I hope you know there's all seasons here. I don't get that text message because I'm off the grid. And so they just put on all seasons. Now, it's the same tire. It's just got a different tread pattern.
It's not the same.
Performance-wise, it's a completely different tire.
Yeah.
But it is a Pilot Sport 4AS all season.
Yeah.
Not S for summer. So do I raise hell about that and try to get...
Well, the fact is there's nothing to raise hell about. I mean, they're not... So the tough part is when you deal with a bigger brand like Big O, they are a big brand, you're not there's no way to negotiate really.
But you don't
get-
accidentally order all seasons. Like if you're looking for a Pilot
here's the
Sport
thing.
4S is a very special tire.
Listen, here's what happened. You were going back and forth with the guy. I was standing there listening to this. I thought about this. If you remember, the conversation, you didn't just say to the guy, order me 4S's. What happened was you told him about the wheels, and you started talking about this and that, and then you asked me. And so then I think somewhere in that process, the guy just got it confused. That's what I think happened.
So then I'm stuck with all season tires.
And the fact is either way, you were going to have to order both sets. So
it is true, yeah.
In this way, it is more convenient for you because if you would have gotten the summers put on Friday, then you would have likely had to have gone back in mid-October-ish, maybe early November, depends on the weather, and had the all seasons put on. So either way, you would have had to do both. Now, I understand why it's frustrating. Because I'm
losing 2 months of summer driving.
Yeah, summer driving to what you want, right?
Yes.
Like to what you want. The average person wouldn't notice a difference, but when you're pushing your car and you're having fun with it, you notice a difference. There's definitely a difference. So, to me, it's like, yeah, it's frustrating. It is, and it just makes me say, like, before, like now, when I do stuff now, I verify before I leave. I'm like, okay, I want to make sure, without a doubt, 100%, this is what you're doing.
Listen, man. It is what it is. Red Heart Norma says, really, Monty, you have an Audi? Never figured because you look like a Chevy guy and Jake looks like a Volvo guy.
A Volvo guy.
What does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
Jake drives a Subi.
Yeah.
He's got a WRX STI.
Yeah.
Heavily modded. How was the mac and cheese veggie mix, Jake?
Bomb, dude. Freaking bomb. Now, I will say, for what it is, remember in the video, this is a reference to our lifestyle video we rolled out last night. I will say, I wish I would have covered it and cooked it for less time on the smoker, but I did dry it out a little bit.
And I'm disappointed in you as my child.
Yeah.
And I've thought about putting you up for adoption.
Right.
Because you didn't put cheese on top of it. How do you not sprinkle cheese and then have the smoker melt the cheese with smoke and cholesterol and stuff?
Because what do I have? Oh, we're trying to lose weight and we're trying to be, we're trying to do better things. And
you
so I'm like,
made
all right.
mac and cheese at that point when you go all, and you went all in, to your credit, and I love you for it.
Yeah.
But when you go all in, go all in.
Yeah.
I
thought about it at the store. I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Jake, raw dog that MFer and put.
Wow.
Okay, probably too much. Wow. Probably too much. You should have put shredded cheese on top of it.
Yeah.
I'm fat. I know cheese.
I
put
like
shredded cheese on top of that
Listen,
thing.
I like cheese too. Yes.
Anyway, and then there's Yellowstone before we get out of here. Yeah. Yellowstone's amazing. Me and Mrs. Monty went for 4 days. Well, 2 days. Drove Friday, drove Monday. We saw all kinds of wildlife. I got to tell you, being in the middle of nowhere with no phone service is liberating. I never thought I would say that. It was a little uncomfortable Friday and Saturday. Sunday, I was all about it. Sunday was great. I did not. Sunday, I had actually gotten used to not having my phone. And Sunday night, we were sitting. Mrs. Monty bought a book about wolves, and she actually read this book to me. And we shared this story of these wolves, and it was a great experience. We made great big campfires. It was awesome. Sunday night, she's reading me this book, and I'm like, it's so nice not to be sitting here looking at Twitter. And
yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying, dude. The cell phone is a it is a time vampire. Like it is.
But you know what it is? It's a relationship killer.
Yeah, it is.
It is. And then last night, we actually, because it was such a good experience not to have the cell phone available, we've made a rule that when we go to bed, we are no longer going to look at our phones laying in bed.
Yeah.
And we went to bed last night, didn't look at our phones. I set my alarm. We set the thermostat, put the phone down.
And what happened last night? You slept really good,
I went right to sleep.
Funny how that works, huh? Funny how that works.
Yeah, got in the $6,000 bed.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I took for granted. We rented a camper thing. And it was like an RV. It was a full-on RV, like a 16-foot RV or whatever it was. 27 foot? Okay, same thing.
Yeah, who's
counting? 27-foot RV. No, I did not poop in the RV. That was a rule we had. No pooping in the RV.
You can't drop a nuke in the RV?
No. By the way, so you can, but then yesterday morning before we dropped it off, we had rented it out from a guy outside the gate of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And so what you have to do is go to a dumping station. They don't tell you at the dumping station that you can see what's coming out of that hose.
Oh,
So I had a clear elbow joint on it that goes into the
dude,
ground.
no.
Mrs. Monty opened the valve, and I don't know how to describe to you that when you watch your own pee go through a hose.
I think that's HIPAA.
I literally had to stop myself from throwing up. It was the most disgusting fucking thing I've ever seen. Excuse my French. The most disgusting thing I've seen in some time. It was terrible.
That's awesome.
Terrible. The other thing I hated about the RV was you know what a baby grand piano looks like? Imagine putting just a little bit of padding, like a blanket, a comforter, on top of that and then sleeping on there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
It killed my left hip. It was not comfortable. But I actually got a couple of good nights of sleep. But the best part was me and Mrs. Monty just hung out and we cooked together. We ate pretty healthy. We saw all kinds of bison which is the buffalo. Bison. We saw elk. We had like a 12-point elk sitting 10 feet in front of our car the other night. And then the other morning when we went up, we were going out to Old Faithful, which is like an hour and a half drive from where we were. Yellowstone's huge. There was an alpha elk, like a male elk, a bull, trying to mate. And this female bull was like, "Nah, man, you out." And this, like, their mating calls, like, it's amazing. Erection? Yeah, he was sporting some serious lumber. Like, he was ready to go. But we saw a couple of black wolves running up a hill through a scope. That was the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. We saw a red-tailed fox, like all the wild animals you see at Yellowstone. I'm telling you, take your wife and your kids and let that park impact you. You will remember it forever. The coolest thing was walking up to Old Faithful, having a deja vu moment from when I was like 10 years old. My family went across the country camping from Chicago. I grew up in Chicago to like California and back. And I remember walking up to Old Faithful, and it was just as I remembered it as a kid. I didn't romanticize it at all. Now, once you watch Old Faithful go off once, you never have to see it again.
Yeah.
But what with the colored pools, the colored geyser pools? The Grand Prismatic. Yeah, the Grand Prismatic. Prismatic, same thing. Your mom. The Grand Prismatic is amazing. Go and do it.
Yeah.
The Mammoth Hot Springs, I'm telling you, the wild animal watching is where it's at. The Northeast Corridor, what's that valley called? The Lamar Valley. That's where you need to camp. Go and stay in the Lamar Valley. There's a 6-mile off-road where you can drive off the road behind. We saw bison. We saw a young elk back there. Like, it's totally worth it. And there are campgrounds in the Northeast Corridor of Yellowstone that you should absolutely stay at. There's cabins there. Tower Roosevelt has like a big cabin complex you can stay in. It's amazing. Yellowstone is the greatest thing I think I've seen in as a national park goes. Zion and Yellowstone are very close. I think the ability to see wildlife and just the expanse of Yellowstone, I would pick Yellowstone over Zion.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's much closer too. Zion feels like it's months away. You have to drive for years. Yellowstone actually feels like a short drive. It feels like a 3-4 hour drive.
Yeah.
It feels closer than Vegas. It was amazing. Now, next time, I want to go to the Tetons and see like Jenny and all that. But
we're talking about working abroad too.
Yeah, we're going to go spend weeks in different places now. We're going to do that too. Gabe Ledley says, we hung out in the Redwoods in California this weekend. Puts into perspective how small our lives and problems really are. Much needed. Yeah, I'm telling you, if you can leave your phone at home for a weekend and don't touch it for a weekend, it's liberating. I just cannot tell you how addicted to our phones we are. Red Heart Norvis says, bet you had that dude elk didn't break up with his chick elk through text, Jake.
Hey, business is business,
James Knight says, hey guys, the huge crowds you guys are getting at college football games in the news down here, not a mask in sight, not a single one. I'll tell you what, at Yellowstone, not a mask in sight. Like, they're in buildings, it's a federal land, so in the buildings you have to wear a mask. And there were probably 1 out of every 10 people there were wearing masks. But we got some definite looks. We saw a ton of "Don't Tread on Me" stickers and T-shirts, and you see families, and nobody's wearing
different
masks.
vibe up there,
really.
bro.
Totally different vibe. Totally different. Monty Jake, it's my 40th birthday today. I'll take the Xbox. Oh, Casey Finlinson, happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday,
One of our
dude.
favorite listeners.
Yes, sir.
Tito says, "Did you guys procreate in the wild?" Why is that comment filtered? I'm not going to tell you what we did.
I have no idea what that was.
If the camper's rocking, don't come knocking.
Y'all about to fuck this up.
I will say I'm a big guy. I'm like almost 6'3.5" now. I'm shrinking. I'm a big guy. The shower in the camper, nah, that's a non-starter. Unfortunately, I didn't figure that out until I got in the shower and couldn't move, and then almost overflowed the pan. And
overflowed the pan.
yeah, the drain was not in good shape in the camper.
No kidding.
Yeah, not good.
Wow.
Anyway, happy birthday, Casey Finlinson. Good to see you. Thank you for everybody who's watching the show. If you're watching now, please give us a thumbs up. Tomorrow, obviously, we'll have an update on the Big 12 news. We'll put away the paver story because he's supposed to be here in 15 minutes. I doubt it. He'll be late. But we'll wrap all that up, and then hopefully tomorrow at this time we'll have an update on the Big 12 for you. We're here every morning. Sometimes it's 6:30, sometimes it's 6:40. Just call it 6:30. We'll all feel better about ourselves. Every morning, 6:30, we're live right here on YouTube. And then, of course, you can get our show anywhere you want on podcast. Just Google search The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. Our SEO is on point. Anywhere you get a podcast, The Monty Show, Google The Monty Show. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.